So drivers, tell me what is it that you think the most about out here when you think about fear on the road? You know, what is it out here that just makes you cringe a little bit, and you know, you just kind of hope every day that it doesn't happen to you? You know, I think we all have that. We all have something out here that we're afraid of more than something else. I've said it before, this is not a safe job. And, you know, on the surface, it might not appear to be that dangerous. You know, you're driving down the road, it might seem like, you know, as long as you're careful and you simply pay attention, then, you know, you can avoid accidents. If you can avoid the accidents, then you have nothing to worry about. But there is a lot more beneath the surface to truck driving than what meets the eye to the general public. One of those things for me, and I think about this every damn day, because my route consists of driving over pretty big hills with pretty sharp turns, you know, at the bases, and then drop-offs on the edges where the guardrails are. You know, it's Pennsylvania on 80, so it's nothing like out west, you know, like you know, if you're crossing the Rockies, or, you know, like if you're going up through Wyoming or something like that. It's nothing like that. But my fear, you know, for one thing, my overall fear is that something's going to happen out here on the road and I'm not going to get home to see my family. That is a fear of mine that I rarely discuss because it's uncomfortable to me. 10 years ago, you know, when I started driving a truck, it wasn't really something I thought about. For one thing, I didn't have a family. It was just me. When you're in your early 20s and you start driving a truck, you just don't think about what could happen. You know, you're kind of naive. You know, I mean, you respect the truck. I mean, I did anyway. I respected the truck. But I didn't think about all the little things that could happen. And I didn't think about the fact that something could happen that would keep me from ever coming back home. And it's quite uncomfortable to think about, but you can't help it, you know? I mean, when you're out here and you're thinking about stuff, that's all. I mean, you've got more time to think about to think about things than you do anything else, because you're just driving down the road for hours on end. And one, you know, of those, like I said, I fear that something will happen where I won't come home to my family at the end of the week like I usually do. But one of the things that makes me feel like that could happen, and this is something that, you know, you may not think about, especially if you're not in the industry, and it's very specific, it's very precise, but my biggest fear is going down one of these big hills, doing 70 miles an hour, coasting down one of these hills with 43,000 pounds of yogurt in the back. Right when I get to the bottom of the hill to go into the turn, you know, which at the bottom of the hill, there's still a guardrail on the edge with a very significant, you know, drop. And my fear is, what if at this very point in time I blow a steer tire? That's my biggest fear. You know, because sure, you can save it if you're driving down a straight flat road and you blow a steer tire and, you know, you've got both hands on the wheel, and, you know, even if you're not prepared for it, if you know what you're doing, you can save it. And even if you don't, you have a best case scenario that, you know, you put it in the median, you know, and then that's it. You know, you don't get hurt. You know, your truck is hurt, your pride is hurt, but you're not hurt. Nobody else is hurt. You walk away without a scratch. You know, that's a best case scenario if it catches you off guard on a flat highway. But what I'm afraid of is having a steer tire blow as I'm entering the turn, going 70 miles an hour with 43,000 pounds behind me, and not being able to correct it because I'm in the middle of a turn. And then inevitably going through the guardrail, and you can figure out the rest. That's my biggest fear right there. You know, because blowing a steer tire on a truck is something that, like I said, if you're not in the industry, it's not necessarily a danger that you think about. You know, amongst many other dangers. Opening a trailer door with a load that shifted and you're not realizing it until you've opened the trailer door and you have a 2,000-pound skid fall on you. Or, you know, that 2,000-pound skid is pushing against the door and you open the door and it pops you in the face and kills you. You know, there's all these different fears, or not fears, all these different scenarios that nobody thinks about, because it's not something that the public thinks about when they're driving it, you know, when they pass a truck on the interstate. It's one of those hidden dangers beneath the surface. But, I don't know, that's just my biggest fear right there, is a steer tire blowing in the middle of a turn at the bottom of a hill with a drop off on the side. Because you can be doing everything right in that scenario. You can be doing everything right. You know, I mean, you can only drive so slow when you go into one of these turns at the bottom of a hill, you know, without obstructing traffic, so to speak. You know, so you've got to keep your speed up to an extent. You know, you don't want to go too fast, you don't want to go too slow, but keeping it within that range is still a recipe for disaster if your steer tire blows in the middle of one of those turns. So that's, you know, I think about that every time I'm rolling to the bottom of one of these hills on 80, and I think about my family every time, because too many drivers out here are killed, you know, with things that maybe they couldn't have even avoided if they wanted to, you know, or you know, they were killed because of a simple careless mistake that they made, because they get into a routine and they just make a careless mistake. It happens to everybody, you know, but out here a careless mistake cannot be fixed with whiteout. You know, a careless mistake out here is life or death in a lot of cases. And I'm not trying to sound all dark. I'm not trying to discourage anybody that might be thinking about coming into the industry. But it's a fact of the life out here that you have to think about these things. It's not, you watch, vlogs like, some of these happy-go-lucky drivers, one of them Trucker Josh, which I think is a fantastic vlogger, fantastic truck driver. But he rarely delves into the negatives and the dark side of trucking. You know, he's a great vlogger to watch, to put, if you want your spirits lifted up, which, honestly, I mean, I won't lie. If I'm feeling depressed and I'm sitting here in the truck, I'll watch a vlog from him just because it cheers me up. He's got one of those personalities you can watch, and that's probably why he has 72,000 subscribers. But there is a bad side to truck driving. It's one of the most dangerous jobs out there. People might argue that, but it is. I mean, you can get into an accident in any number of ways, from driver error to equipment malfunction. Even like I said, walking through a truck stop, you can get ran over by a driver not paying attention. I made a video about this not long ago where a UPS driver forgot to set his brakes when he got out of his truck at a UPS drop yard, and he got out and the truck started rolling backwards and he got stuck and he fell basically under the tire of the truck, was killed. Just by doing his routine daily, or his daily routine, he just simply forgot to pull out the yellow handle for the tractor parking brake. That's all he did. That's all he forgot to do. But, you know, your mind might wander a little bit without you even realizing it, and then you forget something that ends up killing you in the end. And again, like I said, if a load shifts in the back and you don't know it, you got to open up one of these doors, and either it'll cause the door to pop you right in the face, or the door will open and then the load will fall onto you. You know, there's been times where people have gone around to the back of the truck and forgot to set their parking brake, and it was on just the right grade that it didn't start to roll instantly, so it didn't, you know, it didn't register when they got out. Oh crap, the truck is rolling. You know, they didn't realize it until they were behind the truck opening the doors, and the truck, you know, eventually rolled back while they were back there and killed them. There's robberies. You know, if you have to deliver someplace in a really bad neighborhood, you know, there's been drivers murdered just because they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, there's a driver in Detroit that got murdered. He was shot multiple times and his truck was set on fire. You know, this was, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago. And you know, there's just so many. It's not a safe job. And that's something that everybody coming into this needs to know. When I started YouTube with the trucking channel here, I had a pretty colorful language. If you go back through some of my videos, like at the beginning and stuff, I cussed a lot more. You know, I don't know why. I guess I was just, I don't know. I really don't. I guess I was just trying to make a persona for myself. I don't know. But you know, I've cleaned up my attitude, and you know, I try to simply vlog, you know, happy days. But the truth be told, not every day is a happy day out here. Why hide from that? You know, you need to, I don't want to say embrace the darkness, but you need to point it out. You need to have drivers that are willing to point that out. You know, so that new drivers don't only see the good side, but they also see the bad side. Because, you know, it's if you start into this profession and you haven't heard any of the bad side, then you're in for a hell of a rude awakening. Leave some comments below. Tell me what you're most fearful of when you're out here on the road. You know, what is it that you think about that you're just, you know, more afraid of than anything that might happen? You know, I mean, luckily steer tires don't blow that often. Because for one, you're not, you know, it's not legal to put retreads on the steers. So every tire that is on a steer is a virgin tire. If you're obeying the law, it's a virgin tire. So that's good, you know. I mean, so you're working with virgin tires on the steers. So I've actually, knock on wood, I've never had a steer tire blow. I've had every other kind of tire blow, but I've never had a steer tire blow, and I hope I never do. But it is a very, very real possibility. And it's just like, you know, what if it happens right in that moment, right when you're starting into that turn, and you're on this hilly terrain going 70 miles an hour. There cannot be a good ending, you know. There can't be. It's one of those things. Is like, well, if it happened, it's almost sure death. Yeah, I don't see a way out of it. You know? It's scary, folks. You know, it is. It's scary out here sometimes. And don't be afraid to admit that you have fears out here. Everybody has fears, you know, be it driving in bad weather, you know, whatever. Some drivers are terrified to drive in the snow. You know, and I'm not comfortable necessarily to drive in the snow, but I'm not scared either. You know. But anyways, I'm gonna go and get off here. They just started loading me, so I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here. I'm still fighting this stupid cold. So I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here and relax for a bit, I guess, and wait to get loaded more days, and it's going to be 2018. All right, guys. Well, you guys have a good one out there. Be safe, and we will talk at you all later. And get home. Hope you get to see your family soon. All right, guys. Later.